Good evening, everyone. Just realised that my camera is wrong. Just change that. Yep, that's a bit better now. Good evening, everyone. So, Wednesday evening. Today we're going to be reviewing Wilt. Let's not break the white balancing this time. So again, this is reading for charity. We are currently reading for the Archie Foundation, which is a fantastic charity, which mostly works in the northeast of Scotland. If you've not heard of it before, presumably then you've not watched any of these videos. I'll go through it again. It's a charity that deals with sick kids in the northeast of Scotland, particularly kids that have to be in hospital, usually through no fault of their own, trying to make their lives a bit easier, a bit more comfortable, and a bit less scary. And if you've ever been into hospital yourself, even particularly into surgery or into theatre, you know how scary that can be. It's all very cold and clinical. It's full of stainless steel and, you know, folks in gowns, and it's a frightening experience as an adult. If you can perhaps make that experience a bit more livable as a child, how can that be a bad thing? So it's a fantastic charity. I will link the description and the Just Giving link in the description of this video. If you've never given before, what's been stopping you? It's payday's come and gone. Throw some money in, it'd be fantastic. If you have donated before, thank you very much. What's stopping you to donate again? If you got a couple of pounds kicking around in your pocket you don't know what to do with, throw it their way, because it's a fantastic charity. Okay, this week we have Wilt again. This was an interesting book given Winky last week, because in certain ways it covers similar ground in that it's someone who is entirely innocent facing a legal system. Now in this book, Henry Wilt, it's Henry, isn't it? I think it's Henry, has actually spent quite a bit of time imagining murdering his wife, who he has problems with. It's not the most particularly happy marriage in the world, but then he's a little bit boring and she's a little bit out there. You know, the two of them don't really... It's one of these staples that seems to be coming across in all the books, is people who've gotten married and you're not entirely sure why they've gotten married. They seem to be very different people. And I understand that, you know, writing and comedy and drama is based on conflict, but you kind of wonder how the situation got set up to, in the first place, to then provide that conflict. It's a little bit like, you know, being dropped in halfway through a play, not knowing what the first half was, and just going, go! But I digress. The book centres around Wilt's wife disappearing for a few days off on a flight of fancy with an American couple who turn out to be completely psychotic, while Henry gets detained by the police for murder of his wife, which is in reality a blow-up doll he's tried to get rid of. Very long story. Not going to spoiler that one. It's just tremendous. He then sits and argues with the police in a completely fantastic manner, a very wordy and excellent manner, as someone who delivers liberal studies on a daily basis, as his job is. Would be completely tying the police in knots. The police get more and more incredulous, and what starts off with thinking he's murdered his wife becomes 3 murders, becomes he's a criminal mastermind, becomes he's committed every single crime under the sun. The policeman in charge of the operation, you know, is convinced that Wilt is some sort of criminal mastermind come 3/4 of the way through the book. And that's the point that becomes very similar to Winky. Again, Winky, the chief prosecutor, believed that Winky was responsible for all the crimes in the world and all the things that had gone wrong, and every single terrorist act was the responsibility of Wilkie, and he was head of a master network of terrorists. In Wilt, the policeman who's investigating the murder of his wife, the supposed murder of his wife, becomes convinced that Wilt is a criminal mastermind responsible for many, many terrible things and is an absolutely deranged psychotic lunatic who's cold and calculating and, you know, will kill again. And this book is everything that Winky wasn't in terms of the way that the police scenes are handled. For starters, there's way more of the police scenes in Wilt than there was in Wilkie. To its credit, I mean, there's still some backstory. There's backstory about Wilt. There's backstory about Eva. The wife's name is Eva, isn't it? I've forgotten. That's how bad it is. Yes, I was right. It was Eva. You know, there's a bit of backstory about them and how they come to be what they are, but there's no musings on what it means to be human. There's no fantastical love story to bear. This is just outright farce. It's a fantastic book. This has easily been my favouriteest book of what I've read so far. It was genuinely hilarious. It's the first one I've properly said to my wife, you have to read this. You have to read this afterwards. And when I'm done with all the reading for this year, I think I'm going to go hunt down the rest of the Wilt books, because I enjoyed this one so much. It was tremendously good fun. I mean, it's not a long book. It's 324 pages, 325 pages. I read it, 2 days easily. Devoured it mostly because I couldn't put it down. I got to the end of day one. It's like, I need to go to bed, but I want to keep reading. It's the first book I've actually felt that way about out of the ones I've read. So it was fantastically good, fantastically good. There's not much to say about the book, because it isn't. There's no deeper meaning to this book. I haven't tried to find any form of subtle message or metaphor, which I was accused of trying to find in some of the other books. This was just a good romp, a good farce. Again, there's a little bit of the whole the writer's malaise coming in, and that all the relationships seem to be dysfunctional. Every relationship seems to exist just to end, which is again seems to be a running theme through the books that I've been reading so far. But what the feel of this book, if I had to describe how this book felt, was all those fantastic 70s sitcoms that we used to enjoy in the UK, stuff like The Good Life and Are You Being Served and Dad's Army and that style of 70s sitcom. If you took those, made it extremely bawdy, as a BAWDY, turned the notch up to 11 and then just kind of let it go loose for 90 minutes, this is the book you'd end up with. It's definitely got a lot of Carry On films in it. Definitely, I think there must definitely have been what's the word I'm looking for? Influence. It must have been an influence, this book. Sorry, I'm very sketchy today. I don't know quite why that is. It's a tremendously good read. I highly recommend reading this book. This isn't going to be a long review today. There's not a huge amount to say about it. I don't want to spoiler the book particularly, because if you're going to go read it, and I highly recommend you read this book, highly recommend it. If you've had a bad day, go and read 100 pages of this book and you will feel instantly better about everything. It's sharply written. The characters all have their individual voices. They all have their individual, there's none of this, you can't tell when it's Henry, when it's Eva, when it's Gaskin, when it's Sally, whenever it's the particular character. They've all got their own individual voices, which is one of the things that's annoyed me about some of the other books. It's witty. It's a really, really good book. Kind of falls into that realm of Just William had, which is the there's no deeper essence to it other than just sitting and reading some people having fun and being silly. It was a fantastic book. Okay, I'm going to do the little paragraph or the page that I think sums the book up pretty well. Where are we? Okay. Inspector Flint was no different. He was more obsessive, but his tactics were just the same. And besides, he had got hold of the wrong end of the stick with a vengeance, and it amused Wilt to watch him trying to pin a crime on him he hadn't committed. It made him feel almost important, and certainly more of a man than he had done in a long, long time. He was innocent, and there was no question about it. In a world where everything else was doubtful and uncertain and open to scepticism, the fact of his innocence was sure. For the first time in his adult life, Wilt knew himself to be absolutely right, and the knowledge gave him a strength that he never supposed he possessed. And besides, there was no question in his mind that Eva would turn up eventually, safe and sound, and more than a little subdued when she realised what her impulsiveness had led to. Serve her right for giving him that disgusting doll. She'd regret that to the end of her days. Yes, if anyone was going to come off badly in this affair, it was dear old Eva, with her bossiness and her busyness. She'd have a job explaining it to Mavis Mottram and the neighbours. Wilt smiled to himself at the thought. Even the tech would have to treat him differently in the future, and with a new respect. Wilt knew the liberal conscience too well to suppose that he would appear anything less than a martyr when he went back, and a hero. They would bend over backwards to convince themselves that they hadn't thought him guilty as hell. He'd get a promotion too, not for being a good teacher, but because they'd feel the need to salve their fragile consciences. Talk about killing the fatted calf. It's so that kind of, it's a really good way of showing the, a really good paragraph, because it shows the point in the book where kind of Wilt realises where he is in terms of the book. You know, he understands, you know, that everything has changed thanks to this act. He's understood that he himself has changed. He's found that steel that he was missing all the way through his life. He's found that he's actually found his backbone and his desire, and he knows what he's going to do going forwards. It's the moment where in the book where Wilt changes from the mess of a man he was into the man he is in the rest of the book. So I chose that for that particular reason. Not going to go much longer. There's not much more to say without starting to give away spoilers, which I don't want to do. Please, go read this book. Seriously, go read this book. It's fantastic. My favourite one so far. Yeah, definitely my favourite one so far. Next week, which will be Sunday, we have a slight change to the schedule. Cosmos and the wretched Dundee FC book hadn't turned up. Having said that, Cosmos turned up today, and the library contacted me. They sent me an email this afternoon saying that the wretched Dundee FC book was ready to be picked up as well. So I'll be picking those up very well. Cosmos is sitting down there, and I'll be picking up the Dundee book very soon. However, because the next set of books is a series, I'm going to be leaving those two to the end of the series. So Sunday's book will be The Gunslinger, which is the start of the Dark Tower. Almost called it trilogy. Series would be the right word. So we'll see how that one's getting along on Sunday. So yes, just to finish off again, nobody in the chat. I've pretty much stopped expecting anyone to come into the chat, which is fine. It's good. Be nice if somebody was watching these videos. I think some people are, but not many. Any feedback on these videos would be fantastic. Complain about the video, complain about the audio, complain about the content, complain about my voice, complain about my ugly face, anything. Any feedback is fantastic. So yes, this is Reading for Charity. We've been reading again for the Archie Foundation. It's a fantastic charity which helps sick kids in the northeast of Scotland. I will add the links to the Facebook page for all this and the Just Giving page for the charity in the description of the video. Thank you very much for watching. This is Reading for Charity, and I will speak to you all again on Sunday. Good evening.